Hello.
Hi, is this Jay?
It is.
All right, well, let me do the official introduction. Ladies and gentlemen, we're very excited to welcome our next guest to the show. He is an actor and a ventriloquist, and somebody you may fondly remember for him and his cohort on the show Soap. We're very excited to welcome Jay Johnson to the show. You're on the air live with Terry and Tiffany. Welcome.
Hi, Terry. Hi, Tiffany.
Well, I must say, I haven't been so excited since I had another ventriloquist on a show by the name of Jimmy Nelson, and
isn't he the best?
Oh my God!
He's like my mentor. He's now the dean of American ventriloquists, so I guess dean is pretty good. I always called him the Godfather.
Absolutely. And you know, I used to do a little bit of this myself. It's not an easy thing to do, and I guess it's something that's born into you. And we want to talk about your current thing with the Magic Castle. I love Milt Larson. Milt is such a great guy. He's a friend of mine that passed away by the name of Vern Langdon. Milt has got such a great thing going on there with the Magic Castle. But you literally even took your dummy with you on dates.
Who said that?
I read it online. I don't know if it's true.
Well, now, to hear, Terry, you have to stop believing everything you read online. You know? I wish that I had done half the things I've been accused of now in my later years. I ran into a high school friend not so long ago that said, I remember when you threw your voice and made one of the workers on the construction site next door say bad words and you got in trouble. I don't remember doing that. You know, so. I suppose I lapsed into my Bob personality in high school. I don't know.
Sure.
So.
Well, wait, first of all, is it politically correct to call him a dummy?
I don't know. Can you do that anymore?
It's the genre. Some people call that's the genre of the puppet. The actual term is ventriloquist figures. It takes too long to say, so
Right.
Most people just. I don't refer to them as dummies because they have a very strong union, and you know, I don't want lawsuits.
Right.
So I'll take note of this. You could offend a ventriloquist if you call them a dummy. So
Yeah, a ventriloquist doll.
got to remember that.
Yeah, you know, puppet's good, and partners. Yeah, but you know, it's either Bob or Darwin or Nether-Nor or whoever character it is. I don't think of them as anything but their personality. So,
well,
easy for me.
Before we talk about, you know, all things Jay Johnson and your career, let's start off by talking about the 56th annual It's Magic. Now, for our listeners who maybe if they were living under a rock and have never heard about it, what is this event all about?
Well, as you know, the Magic Castle is a private club, and so you can't go unless you know a magician, get a guest pass, or invited. But some of the world's greatest magicians perform there nightly, so Milt Larson and Terry Hill, in their wisdom, decided that they should perform for the public years ago, 56, I believe it is now. Mm-hmm. And so they take a show of the best magicians out on the road, and we're going to do it at the Thousand Oaks Performing Arts Civic Center. It's a long title, but it sounds Thousand Oaks. And it'll be a week from tonight. So all the people that are wondering what they're going to do the Saturday after Thanksgiving, then here's your deal. Just going out to the theater and see me. I'm going to host, and there'll be four other wonderful magicians, including Milt Larson, who rarely performs anymore. So we're honored.
Fantastic. Now, do you dabble in magic at all? Because I know sometimes it goes hand in hand that magicians also do ventriloquism work. And then there's some that are just part of the family. Sherry Lewis's dad was a great magician. Do you do that too, or just...
Well, I think we all dabbled in magic if we had sort of that variety arts mentality. But I was never very good at magic. I love it. I do a few tiny little things that I learned to do when I was a child, and some of my best friends and godfather to my children are magicians. So so I dabble in that, and I guess it sort of goes hand in hand, magic and ventriloquism. Somebody told me that well, I guess you could do magician or ventriloquist or juggler for this. But they said a magician is a juggler that didn't learn ventriloquism. So I don't know if that's true or not. So.
Well, you know, I think it's a sad thing that, well, you know, there's a lot of ventriloquism people and there's a lot of magicians, but you don't really hear of them because just a handful becomes nationally known, and you're one of them as far as ventriloquists that became nationally known. Why do you think it's not as, do I dare say, magic and ventriloquism isn't quite as much in fashion as it used to be? And it's sad that it's not if it isn't.
You know, that I think I've been asked that very question since the day I've always wanted to be a ventriloquist. So that's always been my answer about what I want to be when I grow up. And I think the first time I said that, somebody said, "Well, isn't that a dead art? Isn't that past tense? Didn't that die in the 50s with Ed Sullivan and all the things?" And I never found that to be so. And I guess if you look at Las Vegas, I guess the mainstay in Las Vegas is magicians and Cirque du Soleil and all the big shows. So I don't see that it's faded for popularity. I don't know why occasionally you only want one expert in a field and you don't allow you don't allow several experts in some artistry to excel. You just kind of like to have one mentor at a time. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't think I have a good answer, Jerry.
Well, I'm glad that they're around. It's just too bad there's not enough that become a household name, because it seems just a handful of them have been able to do that, you know.
Yeah, well, it's a very unique art form, ventriloquism. So is magic, so is juggling, so is everything else. But I think sometimes it's very misunderstood, and sometimes it's performed differently than I think the art form calls for. And so, you know, maybe... I guess what I'm trying to say is people will say, "Wow, I saw this singer, didn't much like him or her," but they'll go and see another singer thinking they'll be better.
Yeah.
Sometimes when you see a novel, they have to go, "Yeah, I've seen a plate spinner. I don't want to see another one." Well, this could be the one. You know, it seems we all get lumped in the same kind of pigeonhole.
Well, you did something that was really unique and you know, as one of the world's most renowned ventriloquists and stuff, and that is literally taking your act up to new heights, and you won a Tony Award.
Yeah, I still kind of giggle when somebody says that, because it wasn't my intent, to win a Tony. Of course, who wouldn't want to? And I just never thought that that would be on my bucket list. Doing television early, I always fantasized about what I would say when I won an Emmy, which never happened. But when I think back upon it, a Tony is really representative of the field I've chosen, which is absolute live theater and live performing. That's where ventriloquism is best. That's where magic is best. That's where variety art's the best when you see it. No possible camera tricks, no possible anything but one guy on stage doing his thing. So.
What was your show like? Was it just basically like an old variety show? I mean, it was you and Bob and whatever, and just tell us what everybody saw that caused you to get this great award, the Tony.
Well, the show itself, you can't, I knew going to the theatrical audience that you can't just do your nightclub show and you can't just do a concert, because that's not a show. So what I really did, thanks to a couple of my friends, Paul Kreppel and Murphy Cross, they kind of goaded me into doing this, and we all sat down and kept thinking about what kind of a show we would do. So what emerged was this art of ventriloquism. I really take the history of the art form itself long before it was part of puppetry or even comedy. It was very much an occult kind of art form. And I weave that history into some point in that arc of ventriloquism. I insert myself because I become a professional ventriloquist, and then I get this show Soap, and then all the things that happen in Soap. And the strange thing was that I was working with a character named Squeaky, who was he was made for me by my mentor. He was my guy. He was my Charlie McCarthy, my Danny O'Day. And when I was cast on Soap, they decided he wasn't right for the part. So they actually recast the part of Bob with a puppet I had really never worked with before. So it was not just an adjustment for me. It was a complete adjustment for some little puppet that was yanked out of obscurity, to be put on television.
And to this day, Squeaky is bitter.
Yeah, he just like, wow, that was my big
break. Well, it's funny. We had designed the show, and we were putting it up on its feet, and the show is called J. Johnson, the Two and Only, and I talk about this incident on Soap, and talk about how Squeaky didn't get the role, Bob did. And Jay Sandrich, who directed most of the episodes of Soap and a very dear friend and mentor of mine, came to the show and he said, well, you've got to have Squeaky in the show. And I said, well, Squeaky and Bob are such similar characters. I don't think that they can really be on stage together because one took over the other's kind of personality. And we actually, from that suggestion, took that and tried to find a way to put Squeaky in the show. And I think if there's a moment that probably gave me a Tony, it's the scene that I had with Squeaky. That just turned out to be a really wonderful, touching and funny and heartwarming story as it develops into the play.
I think about the story of when Nicolas Cage won the Oscar and he sets it down in front of other actors and make him jealous. I can imagine that Bob has that over Squeaky, and you put him in the closet or wherever you put him, and he's like, I'm the TV star, not you.
Yeah. I don't want to be around that conversation because
now,
as nice as Squeaky is, Bob is really around her, so I don't want to do that.
Soap became very popular, but I think something that really was a great honor, because I know that Charlie McCarthy is in the Smithsonian Institution, that you are actually using a replica Bob, because the original Bob, was also put in the Smithsonian Institution in the 70s. Is that right?
That's right. When I got this role, and they quickly decided they wanted another look, they had an idea for the character, and I totally agree with it. Looking at it hindsight, at the time it was kind of tough to. It was kind of like you have to get a divorce and marry somebody else to do the show, and so it was a puppet that was okay, but there were some improvements that I wanted to make that I knew I could make the character better by better mechanics and a little different weight to the head. So we really kind of redesigned and kept the same look. But that original Bob that showed up on Soap in God 77 is sitting next to Charlie and Howdy Doody and Kermit the Frog. So he's up there with them.
Well, you're a very humble guy, but I mean, what do you think about it? I mean, your creation is sitting there next to Charlie McCarthy and Kermit the Frog and all of them. I mean, wow,
Well, it's so odd because it kind of it all kind of happened around the Tony. They decided to induct Bob into the Smithsonian Institute. We decided to do it in New York. I live in L.A. And they said, let's do it on this particular day in May. And I said, sure, that's fine. I'll fly back. That'd be great. I didn't realize that was the day that the nominations came out for the Tonys, and some people had some inside information that maybe I might get, and if I was there, it'd be a good thing, and if I wasn't, I could just attend the ceremony for the Smithsonian, everything would be fine. But indeed, the morning that I was nominated for a Tony, that afternoon, I'm inducting Bob into the Smithsonian. So I don't know how you interpret all of that, other than I feel very blessed and fortunate, and I'm having a lucky ride here.
Now, I had thought that maybe they wrote the role for you, but you said, according to what you meant or said a minute ago, that they had a certain idea for the character, what they wanted. Was it like an open casting call that you went on? I mean, am I going to envision a bunch of ventriloquists sitting around in a room waiting to be interviewed?
Oh, you have no idea, Terry. I was already. I had a contract with a yogurt company at the time. Frozen yogurt had just come on the market, and I had created a character that was going to be the Pillsbury Doughboy of frozen yogurt, as far as I could tell from the advertisements. And I thought of my friend Jimmy Nelson making his television fame with Nestle's Quick, and I thought this would be my journey, And so I'd heard about this audition, and I really didn't pay much attention because I really had a job. And finally somebody said, well, you just have to go down just for the experience. And I went down, and indeed from there it was the callbacks and all that stuff. So it was really absolutely an open call. I think at first for Soap, they had the idea that they could just get somebody to work the puppet and then loop the voice in later, and everything would be fine, because the character was really not supposed to be on the show for very long, about 7 shows or something originally. And it was Jay Sandrich who said, no, you know what, if you can have actors reacting to this character, it has to be done live. It has to be done the way you see it, or they're never going to buy it. And so that's when they started looking for a ventriloquist, and I happened to be the right guy at the right time. Looked like Richard Mulligan. I had to play his son, and a lot of things fell in place. I just happened to be a ventriloquist on top of all that. So,
well, let me ask you. That kind of brings up a good question, because when we had, for example, when we had Jimmy Nelson on the show, we were talking to him, and he just happened to mention that Farfel was next to him, and we got to have Jimmy and Farfel both on the show. And then afterwards, he was talking about how, from a ventriloquist standpoint, your puppets, or dummies, dare I say the D word, are real people, and he never does the voice of Farfel without actually working Farfel. So what kind of comes to mind as a question for me is, when you're filming soap and everything else, was it all live, working him doing the voice live on camera, or was there ever a time when you had to kind of cheat a little bit because of the magic of television?
No, we never looped a word on soap, and if we needed to do it again, we did it again like you would do any scene. If somebody flubs a line, you're going to do it again until it's right. But no, we never used any tricks at all. And my thing was that when Bob is out of his protective carrying case, like at some point he is a very expensive, very delicate instrument that I work with, like a violin. Mm-hmm. So sometimes he's in a case protected. When he's out, though, he's alive and he is a person, and he is who he is, because I don't know any other way to work. Right. And so I totally understand what Jimmy is saying. When you have that instrument, you play it. You don't play it when you don't have the instrument, because it's, how do you play the violin if you're not holding the violin?
Right.
Well, when you have puppets, ventriloquist dummies, or whatever you call them, on shows, actors either work very well with them and against them, or they don't. And you had a great cast. A lot of people got very famous at that show. Billy Crystal, Richard Mulligan. Yep. And who was some of the ones that seemed to have the most fun? I mean, I could imagine and just visualize in my mind, Richard Mulligan probably had some of the best lines off camera. I mean, am I right? Or
well, the television persona and the character is not always what the real personality is. In the case of Richard Mulligan was so intense and so studied and so, I wouldn't say method actor, but he got into what he did so completely, that he really was always refining his part. He wasn't joking around a lot during the taping. Billy Crystal, on the other hand, it was hard to get him to settle down to, actually do a line. But yeah, I just remember Richard, particularly when we were on the set, always trying to figure one more way to work the line to get a bigger laugh or a better reaction or some piece of physical business all the time. So it was a great, fun set because we had lots of people. My gosh, we had a cast of 14 people generally, and a standing set of 3 different areas. So we were a very big show.
I think that was one of the first shows shot on live videotape, wasn't it?
I think it was. It's amazing for me to think back that I don't think that it was that long ago, but things have changed so much since then. We were lit like a film show. They shot it on videotape.
Yeah.
We were an after show rather than a SAG show, and that at the time seemed to be a difference. I don't think there's much difference now. It depends on what you want to be, but yeah, we were a different show for a lot of reasons. We looked different. A serial at night, where you continue the show without a beginning, middle, end. Every 30 minutes was new, and kind of broke a lot of rules. But what I tell people all the time, it's kind of a shocker. We were canceled after 4 years with a higher rating share than Seinfeld enjoyed on an average day.
Wow.
Because if you think about it, back then there were only 3 networks.
Right.
If you have 1/3 of the pie, you still have a lot of people. But now you have to divide that pie by hundreds. And
right.
So nobody pulls those huge numbers anymore. But we were, to do a 25 share or a 30 share was not unusual for a show at that time,
Did you ever think that your character on Soap and also Bob would be so long-lasting popularity-wise? Because I understand Bob even made I say recent because I have no conception of time, but Bob even made a more recent appearance on that 70s show when it was on.
Yes, he did. In fact, it was kind of a little tag and homage to Soap. 70s show was doing a serial where it looked like everything was going to continue on, and at the very end, Bob and I show up as if we were still on the set soap, and a soap is set. I can't even say that, the set of soap. I've had too much, I guess. So. Yeah, it was. I've totally lost my train of thought, Tiffany. Zero me in. What were we talking about?
Yeah, we were talking about kind of the long-lasting legacy of your character Chuck and Bob, and how you even reappeared on that '70s show.
Well, there you go. And I had no idea that would be the case. But there are still people that are devoted to that show now as they were then. They find it just as entertaining now as then. You know, clothing has changed and hairstyles look a little different, but I think it was really written extremely well, and I think that Susan Harris and what she started, and later she was helped by several other writers, but she really did write some very strong characters that could interact, and I think that's what makes any television show lasting is something that really touches you writing-wise. So.
Well, Bob definitely had a potty mouth on soap, and I know you're a funny guy and everything, but I love the bloopers because we're a big fan of Paul Fusco that did Elf. And
sure.
there's quite a few bloopers that we've seen to where when the camera's off, he got really, really filthy. Is there any of that kind of stuff we can find from you? Because I always love that kind of stuff.
Well, you know, there is what they called the Christmas reel, which they would show at Christmas time, and it was all the mistakes. And oddly enough, the really funny stuff on this reel is not so much language. Maybe there's a damn or a hell, but there's nothing that's really outrageous. But just funny things happen, like somebody knocked Gene Roach's toupee off one time. And, Ted Wass pulled his beard off in front of Billy Crystal, and just a wart of hair stuck on his lip right in front of Billy Crystal. Of course, everybody loses it. And I know one person that knows where that Christmas reel is, and they're not talking, and nobody's loaning it out. So I don't know where
that's too bad. Well, one thing that's cool about you is I can't even think of another ventriloquist that's done this, if you can correct me or whatever, but you're one of the only ones I know of that's played dramatic roles in shows. I don't know why people think ventriloquist figures are creepy, just like I think clowns are creepy. But I always love movies like Magic, okay, with the dummy. And there was a Twilight Zone episode where the dummy was killing people and stuff. I think it was with Cliff Robertson. And you did Mrs. Columbo, to where your dummy was killing people.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
It was called Riddle for Puppets. And for, I guess, about a year after Columbo, they decided to get Mrs. Columbo, who was never seen in the Columbo. And
right.
We did this, and it was really the show was written for me, and I got to star in it. And it was dramatic, and it was a guy that was kind of schizophrenic and killed. So I kind of got to play the dark side of Chuck and Bob on that one, and I had a great time.
And you even played a police officer that had a dummy, and you were like a psychologically depressed police officer. I had more fun. That was a show called Broken Badges. I had more fun on that show. My best friend Randy Wallace was executive producer, and I just felt like I was living the dream. And we shot it in Canada, and never before or since have they said, Jay, you can do your puppet, but then here's a prop gun, and here's some handcuffs. Now you need to run after this bad guy on camera, and the stunt guy will fall down if you even just whisper on him. And these fight scenes and these wonderful chases and all the stuff I got to do as an actor, and then still got to do my ventriloquism. It was just the most fun I've ever had was Broken Badges. Have you ever done anything without the dummy or the puppet or whatever? I'm stumbling over that word. I keep calling him dummy. I'm like, I gotta quit that.
I know. I didn't mean to poison the well there. They prefer to be called wooden Americans.
Okay. Yes. We must be politically correct.
Bob's off air going, "You son of a bitch."
yeah. You don't want to know what.
Did you ever have an opportunity to do something without your friend?
Wooden American.
Wooden American.
There you go. Yes, I have, and I always enjoyed that too. I really just enjoy performing, and I really love telling stories. So that's what acting is. And if it's a story that involves a puppet, I want to do it really well. If it doesn't, then I want to do it just as well. But one of my best friends is Harry Anderson. Not that I'm bragging about that, but I've known him since he was my opening act.
Wow.
Long Harry and I go way back, and I'm trying to think. When he was doing Night Court, the same year I did a pilot called Sutter's Bay, and at one point, maybe for 30 minutes in the world of television, Sutter's Bay had been picked up on one network, and Night Court had been picked up on NBC. And we went out and celebrated the fact that we probably would cancel each other out, and nobody would ever hear from each other again. And well, Sutter's Bay ended up not selling, and Night Court went on to do, I think, pretty well.
Yeah.
So that's just showbiz, you know. And in Sutter's Bay, the point was I did not work with a puppet. I simply played a guy that was the son of the city manager, and I was trying to make it with the teacher's daughter. You know, that was pretty much it. So.
But now, of course, you can sit back and I won't say gloat, but dare I say it, because not only did you win a Tony for it, but I understand, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I read this on the internet, it's being made into a movie?
Well, yes, not only is being made, it has been made, and it actually has been cut and finished, and I'm very proud of the work. I wish right now I could say, well, we've got a distributor, and here's how you can get it. Right now, you get it by finding me in the parking lot, and I'll sell you a special copy. But we're about to make that deal. It's just been a long labor of love. It's difficult to translate a theatrical show that was written, designed, and performed on stage, and then take it one more step into a theatrical movie situation where you have cameras that are directing your attention rather than stage lighting and that kind of stuff. So we worked a long time to try to make sure that we were maintaining the theatrical experience without working against ourselves with the angles and stuff we were on the film, and I think we did really, really well. I'm anxious for it to get out there for people to see.
So the way you described your Broadway stint was that it was kind of like your life, and you got to show soap in this and that. So is that what we're going to see in the movie? I mean, I would assume you're in it, and it's more kind of like your story, right?
It is absolutely an autobiographical look at ventriloquism. It involves the relationship I had with a man named Art Seeming, who his name alone was Art, so, you know, he had my heart. But he's the one that created Squeaky, built Squeaky. At his death, I was given his puppet that he used for 50 years in vaudeville by the name of Harry O'Shea. And that story of me getting that puppet after he had passed away, and his last dying words were basically, make sure Harry gets to Jay. And it took me about 30 years to tell that story, you know, on stage.
Right.
But that's the two and only. That's what that is.
Well, part of being a ventriloquist, I know for a fact, is have to have a great voice. And the people in showbiz that have the greatest voices are game show hosts. And you got to do that too, right?
I did. You know, as we're talking here, I'm glad to have been me. I'm very lucky. I forgot. Yeah. Two different game shows, as a matter of fact. One with Squeaky called Celebrity Charades, and then later with Bob called So You Think You Got Troubles.
Well, I'm just glad Squeaky finally got to work. I mean, Jesus, he finally got a job, and that's incredible. So.
He did okay, and to be honest with you, he stole the show from Bob, even though he's on stage about half the time. But he does it. But yeah, Celebrity Charades was just that. We had celebrities doing charades, and they were making money for charity. And then, So You Think You Got Troubles was Ralph Edwards, Stu Billett, the year after they had done People's Court.
Mm-hmm.
And they were looking for the next thing, like People's Court. And it was probably the first time that reality show was they tried to structure it, because we had real people on with real problems, and Bob and I would just kind of make as much fun of them as we could without, you know, getting letters. And then there would be a panel of people that would decide what they should do about their problem. Like if the person had a shoe fetish, then Dr. Joyce Brothers would say, well, you know, 99 out of 43 people who have shoe fetishes go on to, you know, da-da-da. Mm-hmm. Then there would be a minister that would come on and say, well, religiously, here's the way we feel. And then there would be an occultist that would come on and say, according to your charts, you should never look at another shoe in your life. and then the audience would vote, and then, you know, if the contestant then, who had the trouble, tried to guess what advice the audience would take if they were them. So they would vote at the very end and then get money, and the show was really all about the interview. We tried to get as much humor out of these people who had unique hobbies or unique lifestyles as we could. Very much like You Bet Your Life with Groucho Marx. In fact, that was pretty much our template for sure.
Now, I've heard a lot of people that either are ventriloquists or have known ventriloquists, autobiographers and things like that, say that at the core of most ventriloquists is a very shy personality, and that's how they kind of work through it, is by using their wooden American to be able to to be able to speak through and help them get out of their shell. Would you agree with that, and would you say that that was the case with you?
Well, yes, I would definitely claim that I was on the shy side growing up rather than the extroverted side. In my case, I also grew up struggling with dyslexia, and at the time, they didn't even have a word for that. You know, the only word that they knew what to do was either you're not paying attention, you're not smart enough, or you're just lazy. I mean, there was no clinical diagnosis of that. So I think ventriloquism for me was a way to express myself, overcome my shyness, and also it didn't require writing or arithmetic or spelling or all the things that dyslexics aren't good at don't apply to a guy that's talking to a puppet, you know. So it would be kind of natural that I would go that way. But there was a great documentary called I'm No Dummy that Brian Simon did, and he talked to a lot of ventriloquists, including myself, and he did find that most of the people like Willie Tyler and Jimmy Nelson and Jeff Dunham and a lot of the people were very shy kids or only kids or definitely not the class clown that picked up ventriloquism.
Well, with your good-looking blonde looks and everything, you either had to be a ventriloquist or a member of ABBA. So
that's the best line I've ever heard. ABBA, which would be the most difficult word to say for a ventriloquist because there's two B's right in the middle, right?
Right.
Well, you could use that in your show if you'd like to. So
yeah, well, thanks very much. You never know, and that means you have to come to It's Magic just to make sure I don't use it. That's what you have to do.
Absolutely. So let's tell everybody once again how they can go see this great show because it's going to be fantastic. I would assume that Bob's going to be there, right?
Or Squeaky.
Bob's going to be there, and a couple of other my friends from the Two and Only, and I have to tell you, someday the people I'll be on stage with, because I don't know how I got to host. I assumed that Neil Patrick Harris was obligated. You know, that's all I know.
Well, you're friends with Harry. You're friends with Harry Anderson. That's how.
There you go.
Yeah, I guess that's it. But Neil Patrick is actually president of the Magic Castle, so obviously he was their first choice. But I'm going to be on stage with my friend Christopher Hart, and Christopher is a wonderful magician, and you guys who love trivia will love this about Christopher. He was the actor who played Thing the Hand in The Addams Family.
Oh, wow.
Are we talking?
Now, I think that's very cool. He was the hand that went around. Well, his whole act involves floating hands, and it was kind of natural that they would pick him for this, but he really is now one of the best hand actors, I guess, in the world. He's not only he's a magician, but he's the hand guy. So Christopher's going to do his act, and then Adam Trent, new guy that's kind of called the Justin Timberlake meets David Copperfield. He's just, every so often you get a magician that is able to do magic and hit the times with the music, and a whole generation is hooked in. That's Adam, and Rick Thomas from Las Vegas. Big Vegas show. He either brings tigers or girls. Either way, it's going to be a wonderful act.
And either one could be dangerous.
Our great mentor and creator of the Magic Castle, Milt Larson, will actually be doing his act. And you know Milt very well, Terry, so you know what a talent this man is.
Absolutely.
And what he's done. He's amazing.
And we're so lucky to have him around, and that he was responsible for the
Absolutely.
castle.
He does a wonderful act, and it's all happening at the Thousand Oaks Performance Art. It's called the Thousand Oaks Civic Arts Plaza, and it's out in Thousand Oaks. And we're next Saturday. We're doing a show at 7:00, and tickets are available, and you can go online. It's Magic, and do all the stuff. And I also would like to plug, if you don't mind, Bob and I are actually going to be doing the Pacific Coast Symphony on the 18th, 19th, and 20th.
Wow.
19, 20, 21, down at Seagerstom Hall, Seagerstom. I never can say that right. With the Pacific Orchestra. I mean, we're going to be narrating Night Before Christmas, and it's going to be too much fun. So.
Wow.
Man, between the Tony Award and working with a symphony and everything, I guess you're the sophisticated ventriloquist because you get to do other classes.
How did that happen? That's hard to say, sophistication and ventriloquism in the same word, but I'm glad to.
Does Bob have a little suit and tails to wear to the symphony, or?
I think they should start.
He does have a really nice tuxedo, and this is really a throwback joke, but we got it at a garage sale from when they closed up Fantasy Island. It's a little tiny tuxedo, and he's had it for a very long time. Don't get to wear it too much, but there you go.
Wow. I think that PBS should be hiring you guys more because you have that whole classical, thing behind you and everything. Wow. So I can't...
I tell you, my absolute dream is to see the Tune Only as the membership drive for PBS. I would go to every station in Hawkett because our show, we cut it down to the theatrical show, which is still 144 minutes, so it's not so much going to fit within a network kind of hour format, but PBS may do it. So if PBS is listening, tell them to call me. How about that?
Well, I seem to remember, because Soap was so long ago, I used to watch it all the time, but Bob had a little bit of a mouth on him. I mean, do you still do that? Was I right in knowing that that's the way it was? I remembered. I mean, do you work that way now? I mean, I imagine this magic show you're doing is a family show, but...
Well, yeah, my act has never been... I've never gone too deep into language or concepts that make me uncomfortable and somebody else uncomfortable. Not that I don't laugh at those things somebody else is doing them, but when you think about Bob's mouth and his attitude on television being really, really on the edge, it really was on the edge for television. It's not so much on the edge for what you hear now or what you hear in a club, but Bob is all attitude. He's nasty attitude. What he says, even if he says hello, it's a nice day, it sounds like he's ticked off,
Right.
So,
and what would, because
he doesn't have to say things bad. He just says things badly. He's just got a bad attitude.
Well, I know it's probably hard for you because you're probably standing at a urinal and people's like, "Where's Bob?" And you get so tired of hearing that. But I've got to ask. Okay, can we talk to Bob for a second? I just want to know what he would think of me calling
him a dummy.
Wooden Americans a dummy.
Let me see. I don't know if he's just a second. If I can yell to him, do you mind?
Okay, sure. Go ahead.
Just a second. And I have a great Bob story to tell you, but I'll have to tell him after he's gone.
Sure.
So hang on. Hey, Bob. Hang on a second. Hey, Bob. What do you want? Can you come to the phone and talk for a second? Who is it? Well, it's Terry and Tiffany. I don't know Terry and Tiffany. Just come on, okay? Come on. Just okay. I'll put Bob on.
Okay.
Hello?
Hi, Bob. How are you?
Who is this?
This is Tiffany.
Tiffany, I never met you. It is not my child. I don't know who you are. And if you think you can call here and get anything out of Jay because you and I had some sort of, I don't know, God knows where, God knows when, you can just think that Bob, please.
I'm sorry, Tiffany.
That's okay.
Did he say something out of line? I don't know.
He's just denying being the father of my wooden American child. It's fine.
Oh, man. Well, see, there you go. That's I didn't raise the boy. I just... Bob, can you talk normally? Okay. Come back over.
All right.
Well, I wanted
Tiffany, I'm sorry. I just got carried away. I get so many of those calls.
That's okay, Bob.
I've got to ask you, Bob, because I was talking to your friend, Jay. The other part of your team, probably.
Be careful. He's standing next to me.
Well, he told me that I should be calling you a wooden American and not a dummy.
Well, he's totally wrong, Terry. You should just never call me.
Fantastic. Jay, are you there?
Hold on. Jay, they want you.
Okay. Hello. Yes,
yeah, you were going to tell the other story about Bob, I believe it was?
Oh, yeah. Oh, because Bob was not a familiar name to me, it was the name of a character. My character was Squeaky. It's not even a puppet that I know for a while. So the first season of soap, when they say Chuck and Bob, I have to think, oh yeah, Bob. So it's the late 70s.
Right.
There's a disco that I'm sitting in, and I'm a movie star. I'm living high. So the manager comes up and he goes, "Oh, you got to come up here, special place, VIP, da-da-da, and the manager then gets up and leaves, and some lady, girl, woman, came up and she said, "Excuse me, are you the guy that's on that show?" And I said, "Soap, yeah, that's me. I'm Jay Johnson." "Oh, how you know?" She said, "Can I?" And she kind of went for the chair and she said, "Do you mind if I sit down and ask you something?" And I just said, because the manager had left his chair, I said, "Well, I think that's Bob's chair. He just went away from it, but I think he's coming back." Well, I meant the manager, Bob.
Oh.
She thought I meant the puppet, Bob. And she gave me this look like she could not back away slowly enough in case I was going to completely, lose it right there. But she just kind of vanished into the crowd. And I felt, what a strange reaction. But then I realized she thought I was nuts. So
Wow.
I would back off, too.
She
See,
probably-
and that's where that rumor came that you
Yeah.
took Bob on your dates.
There you go.
I'm sure that he was there. Now, the best story with Bob, though, is traveling. I was traveling, I think, through the Caribbean somewhere. I know they spoke Spanish, so I don't know where that might have been. But we're going through customs, and it says, "What's in the suitcase?" Open it up. It's Bob. Well, that gets kind of a reaction from a guy that doesn't speak any English, and I can't really explain. And we're not communicating other than I know he knows it's not a dead body. It's just a body.
Mm-hmm.
So he kind of says, "Thank you," and I start to close it. His supervisor comes up, and he says, No. And they argue in Spanish for a while, and he points to Bob, and he kind of says this and walks away. And so the guy says, pick him up. So I pick up Bob, and literally they frisked him.
Oh, really?
They frisked Bob, and they checked. He wasn't carrying any weapons, thank God. And so he kind of glances over to the supervisor, and the supervisor kind of shrugs his shoulders, and I start to put Bob away, and the supervisor comes up and he says, No, wait. And he points to Bob's head, and he says, "Open it."
What?
And
Wow.
I kind of knew that he wanted to see the cavity inside of the head to see if I had God knows what in there.
Right.
But I just can't. It requires a lot of tools and a lot of delicate stuff to open up that. It just can't be done. So I just put my finger on Bob's trigger and had him open his mouth, which to me, was open.
Right.
So the guy kind of puts his hand behind Bob's head and shakes like he would cough up a bad hot dog or something like that. And he's kind of hitting him on the back, thinking something is going to fall out of his mouth.
Oh, God.
Now we're to a point now where somebody is kind of manhandling my instrument, the way I make a living, and something could break here, right? Just from his manhandling. So I didn't know what to do, but immediately started having Bob scream like he was being attacked and strangled. And everyone in the entire airport looked at this guy like he was killing a child.
Wow.
And he, like the woman in the discotheque, kind of backed off and was never seen again. So if you get in trouble at customs, act crazy, and generally you'll get through.
And it's what you would expect too, because Bob would be traumatized to have a strange hand up his back that he's not used to.
Yeah, at one point, I think I became Bob, and he was pretty pissed about this treatment. So.
Wow.
Oh.
And then the other one, that my great travel story with Bob, and when I'm doing the Two and Only, I'm going around and I have several characters, and I travel with them as much in my possession as possible. There's wardrobe and stuff and bodies and things that aren't moving parts that can travel, but I travel with heads, to be honest with you. So I go through the TSA recently, and the guy stops my suitcase, and he looks at me, and he says, "Sir, do you know that you have 3 heads in the suitcase?" Now, I don't know how to answer a question except I absolutely go for the joke. And I say, "Well, how many heads am I allowed to carry on these days?" Now, you all laughed, but he did not have that reaction. I was turned over to another guy that thought it was very funny as he was practically strip searching, but So, TSA, not too much sense of humor.
Well,
Right,
I'm
right.
sitting here thinking you wouldn't have had that problem if you'd have become a member of ABBA, because
There you go. There you go. I just would have needed a passport to get in, not a puppet. So, yeah. But I tell you, it could have been worse than actually being Mamma Mia for 27 years.
That is true.
Absolutely.
True.
Yes.
All right. Well, as we kind of wrap this up, I want to remind all of our listeners the event that we were talking about tonight, It's Magic, is happening next weekend. The Magic Castle's Milt Larson announces Tony winner Jay Johnson to host the 56th annual It's Magic. It's going to be happening Saturday, November 30th at 7 p.m. at the Thousand Oaks Civic Arts Plaza in Thousand Oaks, California. It is hard to say, you're right. And you can check out ticket information by going to itsmagicshow.com. And also, I wanted to mention, Jay, you actually have two websites, the2andonly.com and also monkeyjoke.com.
Yes. Monkey Joke is pretty much my act and kind of information on the corporate work that I do. And the Two and Only is obviously just about the Broadway show, and it's got clips and reviews and all the stuff on it. And eventually it will say you can buy the film of the show at a certain place. So
Cool.
if they'll check in, it'd be great.
Well, you would be surprised to know, in tribute to you and Jimmy Nelson and other great people before you, there's actually only one host, and that's me. I was throwing my voice
The entire time.
Very good. Very good. And, Bergen started on the radio, so you've got to step up. You have got it.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, Jay, I want to thank you so much for being on the show tonight. And the best thing I can say to a performer is break a leg next weekend.
Thank you, and I'll break mine and a wooden one just for your sake. So.
We seriously hope
Y'all are great. Thanks for the
Thank
time.
you.
Thank
We
you.
seriously hope there's no more cavity searches for Bob, too, because that's...
Me too.
All right. Thank you. Have a wonderful holiday, and thank you for being on the show.
Happy Thanksgiving.
All right. Bye-bye.